Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chelsea Story Nook Podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the enchanting world of children's literature. I'm your host, Chelsea Chong Kim, and today we have a wonderful guest joining us to share their journey and insights into their latest book. I'm delighted to welcome our children's book author, Jillian Fanning, the author of A Giraffe in the Forest and A Bear in the Savanna, to Chelsea Story Nook Podcast. Welcome to the show, Jillian.
Well, thank you so much, Chelsea, for having me. And what an adventure getting two books out. But I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am a former elementary teacher. I taught fifth grade for about 9 years. And then when my daughter was born, I decided to stay home with her. But as a teacher, you just see the joy that picture books and chapter books and graphic novels and everything bring to students. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I wanted to create stories that would bring that same kind of joy to other students and kids alike. And, it's funny because a lot of people have asked me, like, did you always want to be a children's book author? And honestly, no. That was something that never even crossed my mind. Like I have
Mm.
interacted a lot with children's literature throughout the years. I mean, I have a master's in reading and literacy, K6.
Wow.
Um, but that was just never something that really seemed like something I would want to
Mhm.
do. But it
Mhm.
was really just a matter of timing. Because when I was staying home with my daughter, um, she would just kind of do different things that would kind of spark different ideas in my mind. And one of the things that really stood out to me was she always had these two stuffed animals that she would gravitate towards. And it was a giraffe and a bear. And I mean, every time she would always pick those to play with. And I just kind of started thinking, like, man, that's kind of an unlikely friendship. And from there, the story just kind of started churning.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, this would be a great story that could convey a message of friendship, could convey a message of, being friends with someone that doesn't necessarily look like you. And that's okay. And we need to celebrate those differences. And when we live in different places and go and experience somebody else's, where they're from and their culture, like, oh, okay, that's different than mine, but it's okay. And I can um appreciate it even though it's different than mine. And so this all just kind of started, in my head. And, I think having that teaching background,
Yeah.
I'm always like trying to encourage kids like to learn and like a theme and what can we take away from this story? And so that was something that I was really at the forefront of when I was creating these books, is just making sure that there was a learning aspect to them
Uh-huh.
as well. So in my books, not only is there like an adventure and stuff, but I wanted,
Mhm.
um, so my first book, sorry, is about a giraffe who gets lost in the forest. And so for someone that has never been to the forest, you're like that giraffe who is kind of experiencing everything for the first time.
Mhm.
And so this giraffe, he doesn't know what to eat in the forest. So he
Mhm.
accidentally snacks from a pine tree. And then he's never seen snow before. And he doesn't know that in the mountains that they're steep and you kind of get out of breath and stuff. So as I have created the books within this series, I have wanted to create that learning element as well for students if they've never had that kind of experience before.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. I would love to ask you, like, why did you choose the bear and the giraffe? And I see why and how you became that type of character and everything like that. And I want to ask you, since I want to see about each book, what's the summary and what's the main character. I feel like you already kind of got into that, but I want to know more about the theme of each book and the meaning and the readers can take away from each book. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, so in Giraffe in the Forest, um, I really wanted to convey this message of friendship can take place um, with when the various parties don't necessarily look alike. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes if that's conveyed through animals,
Mm.
and children can kind of really relate to that. And they can see like, oh, I can be friends with someone that doesn't necessarily look like me, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they're different from me, kind of thing. And so I liked that message. I also really wanted to convey this message of just embracing somebody else's home and
Mm-hmm.
their culture, and just being excited about being in a new place, but also being vulnerable to trying something new. Because I think
Yeah.
teaching kids vulnerability is also sometimes can be tricky, and
Mm-hmm.
just being okay to ask for help. Because in my book, the giraffe does get lost and he's
Mm-hmm.
not sure what to do. And, he has to ask for help from someone he's never seen before and who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't look like him. And
Mm-hmm.
so that aspect of vulnerability and just kind of really trying new experiences and learning from them. So those were kind of
Yeah.
the main things I wanted to in book one. And then in book two, the bear goes to the savannah. So he goes to where the giraffe is from. And so
Mm-hmm.
he is kind of taken out of his element of comfort. And it's interesting to see that character change of being my bear is named Banks, and he's very confident and
Mm-hmm.
charismatic in
Mm-hmm.
the forest. And then when he
Oh,
travels to the savannah, he's like a whole different character. And so
uh-huh.
that was kind of an interesting way to write that character then, because he's in a new place,
Mm-hmm.
he is no longer as confident. So he's more nervous and hesitant to do things. And it's been interesting. And then my giraffe, this is his home. So he takes on that role of being confident, charismatic kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
it's just kind of that role reversal of when you
Mm-hmm.
go to someplace new. But I wanted to kind of show that, like,
Mm-hmm.
as you travel to different places, you might feel more comfortable than other places. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, book three, they are going to go to the desert, which is a new
Ooh.
place for both of them. And
Oh.
so they're both out of their comfort zone. So that would be kind of another way of showing a character development of
Uh-huh.
okay, we're both in a new place. Like, how are we going to handle this kind of thing?
Yeah.
Um, so it was interesting to just kind of see how, even with children's books, you can see that character change as a series develops.
Oh wow. I I can't wait for your third book where they're in the desert. Oh my God, that sounds so amazing. That sounds like a fun story in general. What inspired you to write these books? Like, what was the idea behind them?
Yeah, so kind of like I alluded to earlier, my
Mm-hmm.
daughter was playing with those stuffed animals, and
Ah,
so
yes.
I just thought like that would be just such a fun story.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just this time because I was at
Mm-hmm.
home, and so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just do it. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna write them. And I actually sent the first one to an editor,
Mm-hmm.
and she was very brutally honest, sent it back with notes everywhere. And I kind of had some imposter syndrome of like, what
Yeah.
am I trying to do here?
Uh-huh.
But I think it was honestly what I needed to hear. And I think coming from a background of teaching, um, and you just think about, okay, how many times have I had writing conferences with students
Mm-hmm.
where we looked at their very first draft and,
Mm-hmm.
it had a great foundation, but oh my gosh, we could make so many changes to make it better. And that's kind of what I needed to think about as I was making those changes of like,
Uh-huh.
not trying to take it so personally, but
Mm-hmm.
knowing that she was just kind of laying out the facts for me of like, these are what's going to be the best for your book. Um, so from there, I kind of started to learn more about this, like self-publishing versus traditionally publishing. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go that self-publishing route. I kind of like to be in control. And I liked that I got to make the decisions for how my book was going to turn out. And, from there, I found my wonderful illustrator. And then while she was actually working on the illustrations, because it took her about 6 months, I finished book two and three, because I
Ah.
knew how I wanted this series to go.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I was like, okay, I have this time to be able to do it. So a lot of my writing actually took place while my daughter was napping or kind of late at night, just kind of after she had gone to bed. So it was a very sometimes I'd get a lot of work done during nap time and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I wouldn't. So it was just interesting how the process kind of evolved from the very beginning to where
Wow.
I'm at now with the 2 books out and then one coming hopefully in November.
Wow, that's amazing. In November, your third book is going to come out.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Mm-hmm.
already 3 books. Wow, that's amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
what an incredible journey you had. And I want to wrap up. And could you share any upcoming events or future plans that you're particularly excited about or you like your audience to know?
Yeah, so I, being a former teacher, I have a lot of contacts within like my school district that I work. So
Ah,
I try to
cool.
do a lot of uh, in-person readings, which is really fun. And I think it gets that like time with the students that I
Mhm.
really kind of miss sometimes, but it's nice to be able to read my story in person. So I do a lot of those during the school year. I have, and then I do a lot of like local readings, kind of at like, we have a children's village, so I'll read there.
Oh,
And so, yeah, in November, though, book 3 is supposed to come out. And then I'm hoping to, just, I think I do a lot of local stuff just because the community is very supportive. And I hope
mm,
like eventually I would like to start doing some book festivals and trying to get
nice.
my reach just a little more. But I think doing like these kinds of podcasts and
Yes.
reaching out to various book review companies and stuff, I think, you're slowly starting to get the word out because as you know, like it's a very competitive market. So you have to
Hmm.
just kind of do what you can, the best way you can. And right now that's kind of more local and regional for
Hmm.
me and hopes that it maybe can become a little bit more national and stuff. But yeah, so it's been exciting to see,
Awesome.
like I had said, this is my third book coming out and actually within a year. So
Mm,
it's very exciting
wow.
that it's all, starting to snowball and kind of come together.
Wow. And where can we find in all these updates?
Yes, I try to be pretty present on my Instagram social. It's at
Mhm.
Jillian Fanning Books. And then I also put updates on my website, and that's just jillianfanningbooks.com. So I try to keep um my readers updated through both of those platforms.
Oh, wow. Again, that sounds like an amazing adventure and future events you have there. Thank you so much, Jillian, for joining us today and sharing your insights. It's been a pleasure having you on my podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It is such a joy to share about my story. So I really appreciate it.
I had a joy, I had a blast. And thank you everyone for tuning in to the episode of Chelsea Story Nook Podcast. Be sure to check out Jillian Fanning, the author of A Giraffe in the Forest and A Bear in the Savanna. And check it out, and I'll have all the information in the description box below. And go follow her on her upcoming events. Until next time, keep reading, keep imagining, and keep believing in the miracle of stories. I'm Chelsea Chong Kim signing off. Take care, everyone, and carry it on. Bye, everyone. Thank you everyone for joining us on today's episode of Chelsea Story Nook Podcast. Don't forget to order a copy of Carol the Carrot Bowls for the Salad Bowl on Amazon now. Tune in to other authors' podcast interviews for exciting discussions about their latest books and exclusive sneak peeks. Until next time, keep reading, keep imagining, and keep believing in the miracle of stories. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the notification button. I'm Chelsea Kim signing off. Take care and